Welcome everybody. If you want to just take a minute, we're going to wait for everybody else to get into the event. But if you want to take a moment to just chat and say your name, where you're coming from, we'll start in about 10 seconds or so. So just give us a shout out where you're coming from, where you're logging in from, and then we'll kick things off. All right, so hopefully everybody got a chance to do that. Welcome to the second TeachMeet, virtual TeachMeet of the year. We've had a couple of these in person, and then we had to move to virtually. Obviously, it's been a heck of a year, I suppose. This is the last one we're going to be doing with Level 5 Bahrain this year. If you haven't heard of us, Level 5 is a creative space, an innovation hub, looking at sparking creativity and innovation in educational pedagogy across the MENA region. Today, we're excited because we have a fantastic lineup of 6 speakers that are going to be sharing on a wide range of topics. Each of them also has a synchronous learning activity to go along with their presentation. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There may be some technical difficulties with these. Just hang in with us if that happens. We're going to record this whole session and we'll send it out to everybody that's registered for that event. You may not get into some of the synchronous activities. That's okay. We just appreciate you watching. If you can get into them, that's going to be awesome. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. 8 minutes is the limit for presenters this time. We decided to bump it up a little bit and have a few less presenters so we can go a little bit deeper. They're going to get a 15-second warning at the end of their 8 minutes to make sure we stay on time. We couldn't do the gong. Last time it didn't really work out for those of you who've been to TeachMeets in the past because Zoom wasn't picking it up. So I'll just say, hey, it's your time is almost up. We're also going to do a breakout session. We're going to try out breakout rooms in Zoom where we're going to talk about a little bit about the future of what next year might look like for us as educators. And then at the end, with the time we have left, we'll have a Q&A session that we'll we'll take questions. If you want to ask any questions of the presenters, just put them into the chat window and we'll take those questions out of the chat at the end and we'll ask them to presenters. So with that, that's all I really wanted to say. We're going to invite Beth to start sharing first. She is going to be sharing on synchronous routines that invite student voice. Beth, are you all set there?
I am set. It is telling me though I can't share while you were sharing.
I'm going to exit mine and stop sharing.
Let's see.
There we go.
Okay, let's try that again. All right. And let me hop over to my slides. Okay. Here we go. And open. All right. So thank you, Luke, for having me. Again, I am eager to share some more that I've been learning about teaching synchronously in our virtual learning classrooms. So today, in my 8 minutes or less, that's always my goal, but I have a history. In my session today, I'm going to talk mostly about routines that encourage and invite student voice. So Luke, if you could share the slides and the link for the slides in the chat box. It's hard for me to talk about synchronous learning without sharing exactly what that looks like with you. While that link is being shared in the chat box and you're hopping onto that, I want to share some ground rules that can be used as is with students, but can also be for us as adults today. So as hard as it is, go ahead and put away all your distractions. Luke has already kind of invited you to be patient. We won't need to use our mics today. Be a kind and good digital citizen and to come prepared. To come prepared, all you need today is your enthusiasm for virtual learning and your curiosity for synchronous learning. The first strategy or routine that I would like to share with you is called Respond and Code. In just a second, I'm going to invite early childhood teachers all the way through 5th grade to go to slide 4. I'm going to have 6th grade through 12th grade teachers and others in that specific grade level to slide 5. And then anyone else that you feel like you don't really fall into that or you fall into more than one, you're going to go to slide 6. Those are not hyperlinks. I saw a good friend, Tom, I saw you trying to click on that for a hyperlink. It is not a hyperlink. I'm sorry about that. Just hop on down to that actual slide and you'll hear what we are going to do. I will display slide 4. I know that we are all thinking about what our plans are for this summer. So would you grab one of those white spaces and would you type in what your plans are for the summer? If you're doing this with students, or if you're doing any other question with students, you can require them to put their name if this is some sort of accountability. You do not have to do that today unless you want to share with the others in our Zoom call what you are doing. I have a feeling we're going to look very similar, but go ahead and do that, and then I'll share with you the next step. And I'm just going to, as a teacher, what I do when all of this is happening at once, I look at the slides just as I would walk around from desk to desk. So I can say, oh, I see that someone, actually Callie, she just typed in her name, Callie's moving to Hong Kong. I see that on slide 4, there was someone moving to Bahrain. So it looks like we have some friends that are moving this summer. Many people are staying in their location, whether that's Germany, Riyadh, Bahrain, working in Saudi Arabia. So I just kind of highlight and bring that voice to the forefront. So as you finish up that, I would like to share the next step for what this involves. So we said it was respond and code. It looks like it's escaping. Okay, here we go. So I'm only revealing on slide 4 what you're about to do, but these are all the same on slide 5 and 6. In fact, if there's someone on slide 5 and 6 that want to move that kind of teal rectangle, they can. Now I would like you to code your space. Think about what your plans are for the summer and what you just typed, and would you code it green if you're feeling positive, excited, happy about these plans, yellow if you're feeling just okay, and red if you're feeling discouraged about your plans for the summer. So go ahead and do that now. Feel free for as many of you as are present to fill in those boxes. Again, this is very easy to do with students. This could be what book did you read last week? And you could still have them code the same way, or you could change the way that they're coding their document. These are great for starting a class session. As students, just like in this TeachMeet, logging on with it kind of a start without a start. They can get started right away filling this in, and there's no lost time. So thank you to those of you who are kind of coding. I see some people that are just okay staying home. I'm with you on that. Learning from home, very excited about. So these might be things that I can follow up later with students and again, continue to get access to their voice. All right, so that is respond and code. That's the first routine that I wanted to share with you today. The next one is which one doesn't belong. If you are a math teacher, you have likely heard about this. Chris Danielson has some books, and there are also some related websites. I have shared an active link in the lower right-hand corner that you can please visit later. Which one doesn't belong is an excellent activity to encourage students to take a risk, share whatever it is that they're thinking about the choices provided, and know that there's not really a wrong answer. It's just really for them to share some thinking and make connections with their classmates. So this one, the way that I would like you to participate as adults today, and you can see there are only about 20 spaces on this particular slide. I can duplicate this to do a bit more. So let me go ahead and do that. So on slide 8 and 9, what I would like you to do is choose the image about how you are currently feeling this place, like right now in the year. We've done virtual school for 2 to 3 months. We're nearing the end. You can be honest, it's just fun. I know the emotions change from day to day, but the way that you respond in this routine is your name. Again, that's optional for you today as adults. The letter of your choice, the one you think doesn't belong, or the one that you, in this case, relate to, and your rationale for this. So go ahead and do that on either slide 8 or 9, please. Which one doesn't belong? And while you are doing that, I can share some ways that I've used this in the classroom when I'm starting a new unit, perhaps on decimals. You know, putting 4 decimals that are related in some way. Maybe they're all less than 1. Maybe some are repeating, some are not. But in just enough ways that they're connected so that students have to really think about what they're seeing and respond related to those choices. And on the link that I provided on slide 7, you will see a wealth of opportunities to do this in math class. So I'm seeing a couple people on slide 8. I'm gonna hop down to slide 9. Okay, let's see. Actually see almost all of them represented. I see B, C, D, ready to start planning. Okay, I'm kind of there too. I'm not sleeping on my computer yet, so the workload is great. All right, this is great to see. Later in small groups, you might even have, the students who answered the same, depending on how, what your choices are, you might have them go in a small group room and collaborate some more, or to convince others theirs is the one that doesn't belong or that is the best choice. So there are lots of ways, again, to share and encourage student voice with this particular routine. As people are finishing up this one, I want to share an anecdotal story that I was just sharing with a colleague yesterday. I, like probably many or all of you, have noticed that opportunities like this, or even just in a chat box when we're meeting in Zoom or in Google Class or in a Google Hangout, the students who often sit in the back and very reluctantly respond to class discussions, I am finding are very loud and proud. And it's just been amazing to see. And as I co-teach with, a teacher in 5th grade, even to hear his excitement for how the student is kind of, coming alive with confidence. So it's been great to see that. And I hope that these routines will do that for your students as well. On slide 10 and 11, these are just other examples. This might be in a music classroom. Which one do you think doesn't belong and why? We don't have to do that today, but I wanted to show you how flexible this routine is. Slide 11, almost everybody loves chocolate. So you can see that all of these things are chocolate. But if I said which one doesn't belong, many of you would have different choices. And some kids might say D doesn't belong because I only see one, or I see just a little bit more than one. There are many ways they can answer, which is nice for risk taking. On slide 12, and my final routine, this one is called Own a Space, and that's really what it is. Students are invited to take a space and make it their own with whatever the question or task is. So you will see slide 13 through, I think I made quite a few of these since there are 6 only. 13 through 21, pick any one of those boxes and respond, how have you encouraged student voice during virtual learning? So these are some of my own ideas and things that we've tried already, but I would like to hear from how you have encouraged student voice as you own a space on one of these sides. So let's go for that and take a minute. Luke, are you able to tell me quickly how much time I have?
We have 15 seconds left.
Oh my gosh.
15 seconds left, so fire them in there.
I thought I was doing awesome. I meant to set my own timer to watch it. All right. And to think I had 2 other things I had planned that I actually took out of the slide set. All right, so I'm going to summarize because the last part that I have to share is super, super important. Again, this is called Own a Space, slide 22 through 24. I thought would be super fun, and this might even be fun to do with students. Which book or song title describes your experiences teaching virtually? That maybe would have been a great one to start with. Last but not least, on slide 25, I know if you've heard me speak about synchronous learning in the past, you've heard me share all my kudos and thanks to Dr. Teresa Wills, who was a professor of mine in a fully synchronous master's program that I recently completed. She is great to follow on Twitter. She has a website. You can subscribe to her YouTube videos. Almost everything I share is from hers and either made my own or not, and she knows that, because she is eager to share the opportunities to invite student voice in our synchronous settings. I wish I had more time with you, but I don't. If you have questions, I can either put my email in the chat box or you guys know how to find me. So thank you.
What we'll do is we'll make sure we share out all the slide decks at the end, and I can share email contacts with those who are interested in sharing that out. Okay. If you do have any questions about what Beth shared, put it into the chat window, and then we can come to it in our Q&A session. Thanks for sharing, Beth.
Awesome.
Next up, we have, I wanted to mention, Beth, you always do such an awesome job of actively modeling what you're talking about in the, when you're doing these hyperdocs. Awesome work. Danny Gordon is going to be sharing with us about bringing students back and how to plan that return. And we're going to do a little bit of co-creation with him. Danny, are you all set there?
I think I'm all set. Can everyone hear me? How about a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, perfect. Welcome, everybody. Thank you to the Level 5 and Luke and John for the invitation to be part of this. This is always a great treat. Congratulations and welcome to June, everyone. We didn't think we were going to make it, but it's here, June the 1st. I'm going to share my screen and just share a little bit about how I, as a leader, think about planning to return our students to school. Can everyone see the slide there, returning students to campus? I'm seeing some heads nod. So actually, after that last presentation, you're going to get a contrast in how not to teach online, because I'm an administrator and I should be great at this, but I'm not great at it. So I'll do my absolute best. And by the end of this, you'll all have a slideshow that you'll have lots of great ideas on to take away. So in terms of how we think about returning students to campus, you know, I'm a big picture guy, and I surround myself by people who are really good at the details. And in terms of our distance learning plan, it's been built around 4 really cornerstones: learning, connection, structure, and balance. And we've really grounded it in our mission, vision, and values. So it's very important to me that we always have some bedrock. And for us, these aren't just posters that hang on the wall, but they really guide us, and they guide us through face-to-face learning. They guide us through distance learning, and they're going to guide us through whatever we create to bring our kids back to school. So you're going to have this slide, but we're really going to focus on these 2 questions in yellow. In terms of thinking about how we bring back, designing a plan to bring our kids back to school, I fundamentally believe that the answers to how to do that the best are within us. And when I mean us, I mean the people in our school, our teachers, the people in our community, our parents, our stakeholders. And so naturally that leads me to work with the empathy piece first. Doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but this is the approach because I fundamentally believe that the answers lay within us. So we started out with 2 questions. What will it take for our stakeholders to feel comfortable returning to school? And what do our stakeholders need to see, hear, and know? So there's 3 basic groups I took the team and divided them into. We put on our teacher hats, our parent hats, and our student hats. So why don't we use the same 3 groupings that were just used in the previous activity? And there's 3 slides there, and you can interact with them. And if you go to the slides, you can we'll take a couple minutes here, just for fun, jump on a slide. You're either a teacher, put on your teacher hat, put on your student hat, or put on your parent hat, and decide which one slide you want to go to, and just start putting in some ideas about answering those questions. What's it going to take for you to feel comfortable as a teacher or as a parent or as a student to return to school in the age of COVID-19? And what would you need to see or hear or know from the school in order to meet that comfort level? So I'll be quiet here for about 90 seconds, and people can just get on those slides and start typing away. This is great. What you begin to see as you look at the 3, once you bounce around between the slides, what you begin to see is the complexity of creating a plan in this particular age with COVID-19, of how are we going to kind of make all 3 groups, how are we going to address the needs of all 3 groups? And from my vantage point, and people may disagree with this, but from my vantage point, you've got to have the confidence of the teachers first and foremost. If you can't win the teacher confidence, I don't think the rest is going to be really possible, in the sense that you won't have students feeling comfortable if teachers aren't feeling comfortable. So we have our teachers who want some clear protocols, our students who are concerned about their lunch and their play breaks, and will they be with their friends. Our parents want to know that their teachers are taking care of their child's social emotional well-being, and that there are safety precautions in place. Okay. So here's my attempt at kind of a pyramid or hierarchy of needs. It looks more like candy corn, but bear with me. So if you look at this slide, the number one thing you have to plan for is, how are we going to reduce the exposure to COVID? How are we going to minimize the possibility for infection? How are we going to prevent it? How are we going to maximize our stakeholder confidence? And then finally at the top, how are we going to maximize student attendance and experience? How are we going to make teaching and learning as rich as possible? So those are the three areas that we really are thinking about as we put together a plan. How do we prevent and how do we respond? How are we going to get our teachers on board and believe in our plan and believe in what we have set aside? And how are we going to obviously build the best learning situation and program we can for our kids? We have the same thing here. So strategies, processes, and ideas, and artifacts and examples in each of these, for each of these categories. So the first one is, how might we reduce the risk of transmitting and contracting COVID at school? What are some strategies, processes, or ideas that you think ought to be put in place in order to reduce that? And you can just type them in there. And what are some examples of that, or some artifacts of that? So let me give you an example. A strategy we would use at our school is we would disinfect 3 times a day. What's an artifact or an example of that is we use Steri 7 hospital grade disinfectant. So that would be an example of the kinds of things we're looking for. So as you think about it, how might we reduce the risk of transmitting COVID? How might we reassure our stakeholders and win their confidence in our plan? And how might we maximize teaching and learning for the most students possible on campus? So why don't you go ahead and type some ideas into those different slides. How might we reduce the risk? How might we maximize confidence and get buy-in? And how might we build a learning program?
Just going to jump in, Danny. Those who aren't able to get onto it, I'm sending the link one more time through the chat. Just make sure you click that link in order to access that Google Slides.
So you'll walk away with this slideshow, which will give you a structure for how to think about it. It's really important to understand that most people want to start at the top and answer the questions about, well, how many kids can we have in a class, and how many kids can we have on campus, and how will they work in their, how will they do recess, and how will they do lunch, and how will they work into their work with their lockers? How will we do physical distancing? A lot of people want to start with those answers. My point of view is, we can't, it's really hard to start with those answers until we get a real sense of what everyone's going to feel comfortable about, what everyone's going to be comfortable with, what people are going to get some buy-in for, how we're going to reduce the exposure, and then those things come. After you know how you prevent and you know what your teachers are comfortable with, then you can begin answering questions about how many kids can we have in a class? Should we do half in the morning, half in the afternoon, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, just like any good resource, webinars are really popular right now. And on that slideshow, you're going to walk away with some really powerful, helpful ones in building your plan to bring kids back to school in whatever capacity that is. 100% of them at a time, 50% of them at a time, half days, every other day. However you end up, wherever you end up, it will be an awesome creation that you're going to do with your team. So that's how I'm
Danny,
thinking about it.
we're
as a
about
leader.
time, buddy.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No,
Got
that's all
about
right.
5 seconds here. Finish her up.
So most important thing is that I don't have the answers, but it will be fun to lead my team and see what answers they come up with. That's it. Thanks,
Right.
Luke.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Danny, for
everyone.
sharing, and love the idea of co-creating this together and getting every voice in the room and all the stakeholders involved. Well done. All right, next up, we're going to have Nisha sharing. She's going to be sharing on some synchronized online learning ideas and what platforms that you might be able to use to do that. Nisha, are you all ready?
Yes, Luke. Just give me a second to set up my screen.
No worries.
Am I sharing my screen?
You are.
Just a second. Okay, I think I have too many things opened up here. Okay, is that good? Can I see your chat on the side? How do I see the chat?
You'll have to click the chat at the bottom. There's a little button at the bottom of your screen.
Yes, but where is the chat?
I can, if you need, I can put those links into the chat. I'll put those in for you so you can kind of kick things off, and I'll make sure I add the links that are needed in there.
Okay, all right, okay. That would be fine. Yes. So, all right, I think I can. Yes, I can get started, I guess. Just a second. Yes. So let me know, when do I start?
You're all ready, Nisha.
Okay. Good afternoon, MENA region, and welcome to my presentation over here. Thank you so much for joining in. I will be sharing with you 4 applications which I have been using in 2 of my courses, which have been teaching literacy to the 3rd-year students in Bachelor of Education course, and teaching seminar and teaching practice to the Diploma in Education course students. These applications, which I'm sharing with you, you will get the hands-on experience, and also I will share the variety of ways in which I have used them in my teaching. So let's get started. The first one is menti.com. If you can just scan the QR code over here, or Luke is also going to be putting the link in the chat box, you will be answering this question, which you will see: what's your biggest online challenge? So I'm going to just open the screen where I will see your responses coming up. So this is where I should see your answers coming up. Yes, now this is something which you can use very quickly with your students if you want to have them vote on something, you want to know student preferences, student choices. So this is a really quick way of knowing student response. And also you could use it with any of the topics that you are teaching. So this is first of the applications. Let's move on to the next application. Yes. Menti.com gives you a lot of options to get responses. You could get response in the form of multiple choice questions, or you could have a Wordle made by student response, or open-ended. You can have them rank on some question, or you could just have some straightforward question answers. These are the ways in which I have engaged Menti.com. I have made them reflect on what they have read. I have made them define words, or maybe invite their feedback on something, or made them analyze words or vocabulary. Sometimes I made them use it for peer review, or even to make predictions. Moving on to the next is Padlet. I'm sure many of you must be using it already. If you can scan this code, you will reach the Padlet which I have made for you. Once you reach this Padlet, I'd like you to click the plus sign and post one word which describes your personality. Luke will also send you the link if you can't access through QR code. So let's go to the Padlet. Lovely, I can see a lot of responses. Now also, I would like you to read the qualities posted by others and put put a like on those which are close to your personality type. Excellent. So this is something which you can use to make students not only engage with the teacher, but also make them engage with each other. You can have a lot of peers, peer interaction using Padlet in this form. Now I'll share with you how I have used Padlet. I have used it for the same activity when I was teaching them the concept of hybrid identities. And the same thing they have done, they've posted their personality type and they have gone and checked the ones which are similar to their own. And then of course we had a further discussion on this. I've also used Padlets for having students do a group presentation when they did the rhetorical analysis of ads. They've also done the discussion on the summary that they have written after reading the essays which were on the course. And also we read the novel Tuesdays with Maury. They were supposed to select the best quotation and post it on the Padlet for the class discussion on these quotations. Another use of Padlet I have made to do a seminar with my diploma students. This seminar was on reflections of their teaching strategies. So this is how I had engaged Padlet. Moving on to the third application is our very favorite WhatsApp. If you can scan the code, you will be able to join a WhatsApp group that we have made for you. Or Luke is also going to send you the link in case you can't use the QR code. Okay, so yes, I can see many of you are joining in over here. Yes, now what you have to do is your task is to take a picture of anything interesting around you and also post a message why it's interesting to you. And have a look at the pictures posted by others and post your comment on that picture, something which interests you, which is posted by others. And a voice message. Yes, and maybe you can select anything which you like, any post, and you can make a comment on that. Excellent. Now this is something which again you can use with students to interact with the students also, and also you can make them interact with each other. So let me quickly show you. Thank you so much for your participation on this WhatsApp group. Let me show you how I have used this. I have made a very creative use of WhatsApp with my diploma students when we had started the lockdown. In the very first week, I had conducted an online seminar with them. They were supposed to do 4 tasks. They were reflecting on their teaching strategies. They had to post the picture of their reflection paragraph. They had to post the comment on their reflection, and they also had to reflect on 2 peer reflections. So that is how I made them do the seminar on their teaching strategies. The last application I'm sharing with you is the Google Forms. If you scan the code, you will reach a Google form, which I have made for you. And Luke will send you the link also. But I basically use the Microsoft Forms, but they are having the same features as Google Forms. So you will reach the form. And if you see, this is a very special form because it doesn't have any questions. It doesn't have any options, but it does have the topic. So the topic is figures of speech, and you can use it like a listening quiz. So it actually cheat proofs the exam. So when the students read, the students can access this and open this, and teacher can read the question. For example, your question is, I'm going to give you a figure of speech example, and you will tell me which one is that. For example, she sells seashells by the shore. So which figure of speech is this? Option 1, onomatopoeia. Option 2, metaphor. Option 3, simile. Option 4, alliteration. So I have 9 responses already, and you can just show the students the results. And of course, you can have a discussion on that as well. And I have used a lot of, activities and tasks on these forums. For example, I do a lot of pop quizzes. I also use them as entry and exit slips. Exit slips if I want them to reflect on what has been done and let me know about it. And entry slips if I want them to bring some ideas to class. And as you can see, these quizzes which have been used for summative assessments as well. That's about it. Look, I hope I have managed within time.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Thank you so much. And I hope you can be more creative with these applications. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing. I love the possibility of using WhatsApp, especially with older students and how they'll be able to communicate. That probably works really well with your university students. So we just want to remind you that if you have any questions for any of the speakers, make sure you put them in the chat window, and I will answer, or I'll ask them towards the end of the event. We're going to actually go into our breakout session now. Let me share my screen with you. Let me see. All right, so these are the questions that we're going to take into our breakout rooms. If you want, snap a picture of them, because you won't be able to see these once you get into the breakout room. So if you have your phone, just grab a quick picture. It's going to automatically send you to a breakout room. There'll be a little button that comes up at the top. If you just click that, it'll randomly assign you to a breakout room with 4 different people. And these are the questions I'd just like you to chat about while you're in that group. We'll have about 6 minutes to do so. So the first one is, when we're looking at the new normal of next year, and we're coming back to school, possibly a blended learning model, possibly still online, what are the things that are going to be gone for good that we're never going to return to in school, that we think they're kind of outdated now after this experience that we've had? The second question, what will return to normal? What are some things that we know we're going to keep and hang on to that were used before this virtual school experience? And then last, what do we want to keep from virtual school? What is something that, or what are the things that we know we need to hang on to during this, even after we return from virtual school? So with that, John's going to send us out into breakout rooms. Again, you're going to want to click the button that allows you to go into that breakout room that will show up in just a moment. All right, Samira, do you want to get your screen all set up for when we do get back in? I think everybody's starting to get back into the meetings now.
Hello, can you see my screen now, Luke?
We can. Yep.
Okay, so you can
Maybe
just
wait
let me know
about
when I have to start.
Maybe about 5 seconds and we'll kick you off. I think everybody's just getting back in now. So yep, you can give it a go.
All right. So hello everyone, I'm Samira Jamil and I'm an elementary school teacher. And today I'm really excited to share with you my virtual classroom library. So since the time this whole online teaching learning started, I was just wondering how we are going to move on with our readers workshop. I mean, that requires a lot of books and so many books in the baskets for students. So yeah, we should be ready with all those resources. So thanks to my literacy coach, Ms. Lorna, I reached out to her and she provided me with this amazing resource through Padlet. And I could create these 3 areas. As you can see, I've created our virtual book room, readers, book baskets, and Ms. Jamil's virtual classroom library, which is more like my reading corner. So our virtual book room is more like your literacy coach's room, where she keeps all her unit books, curriculum-based books, and teachers just go from their classroom library to this room to collect their unit books or whatever books they need, read alouds, anything, and then they just put it back and switch it when their unit changes. So at this point, I'll just ask Luke to share that link with you so that you all can visit our virtual book room with me. So I'll just go here. So this is basically like one stop for all the teachers. You can have it according to your department, maybe from grade 1 to grade 3. And then we have all the books stocked over here: poetry, read alouds, independent reading topics, interest shelf topic levels that are all leveled. Then we have series, which are leveled as well. We have genre texts. I'm sorry, I'm going fast, but once you have the link, you can be in there and you can explore yourself too with me. So this little basket in the end, I created for myself, for the teachers. So if you need more books, more links are here. So we can just add the links which are providing great books for the readers, for young readers, or if you have for the middle or high school. So all those links can be just listed over here. So at this point, if you have some really great websites which are offering good books, I would really appreciate it if you can share it with me later. I'll share my email address with you, and then you can send it to me personally on my email ID, and I'll add it over here. So this one, for example, Unite for Literacy is my favorite because most of my students are non-native students. So this supports them really well because once they have read it in English language, they can just choose their language and they can hear it in their own native language. So it really helps them in understanding the story better, whatever book they're reading. So let's just move over here and I'll just open one of the books, just visit one of the book baskets. So if I want to visit series E to G, and I'll click over here, Quack series, and it takes me to this document over here, which has all the Quack series books over here. So if I want to read A Rainy Day for Quack, and I'll just click on this. Now, every book takes you to a different website, which are offering free. You can just create your account for free. And yeah, it's easy to access. You just have to create your account and you're there. So you can see the book is opening and then the students can just continue reading it. And some of them might even take you to a YouTube channel for reading books. For example, the Read Aloud. I'll just open one for you. And then it might just take you, sorry, this one's taking to Epic. Yeah, so basically they're all from different platforms, but they're all in here. Now, if I want to take one of these book sets into my classroom, so I want to move this basket, the series Quack series, into my classroom. So I'll just go to these three dots on Padlet. I'll say copy post. And then over here, it will show Ms. Jamil's room, classroom reading corner. And I'll just click over here. I've already created that series E to G basket over here. And then it will just get transferred. As you can see, it says post copied successfully. Now I want to just go back to my classroom library reading corner. I'll click over here. Now you can share this link as well with you. So you can all visit my reading corner. I miss my reading corner. So this is my reading corner. And over here, I have created all the baskets which I feel should have those books which my students are able to read at that point of the year. So I have my Reader's Workshop anchor charts. And yeah, when I transferred my Quack series, yes, here it is. So that was really fast. I don't have to carry those baskets down the hallway. So yeah, it's over here. So over here in my classroom library, I have baskets even for anchor charts for Reader's Workshop or Writer's Workshop. So students can select and refer to these anchor charts. They have all those books which I'm doing, read alouds. I basically will keep adding them over here, and it'll be easy for the students to just come and do book shopping. I have my mentor text over here as well. And I have even put my link where I do my Reader's Workshop reading grading for my students just to check their level. So yeah, this one is good for me. Literacy footprints, I follow this one. You can basically just put in over here whatever you're doing. And yeah, this is how it is. Now, if I allow my students to access my classroom library, their classroom library, Reader's Reading Corner, I will just go over here. Now you can see Reader's Book Baskets. Now again, Liu can share this with you as well so that you all can see how I've organized my students' reading books baskets. This is when I send them for book shopping. Sometimes we do it once in a week or twice in a week. They select one or two books. And I have all my students' names over here. Each basket is labeled and I have put their pictures just to make it look fun. I have put the anchor chart over here, which they need to refer to during that week. And I can just change it every week. And then I can just check, like Ali has read 2 books today, this week, and Maya has read 1 book. And basically you have all your students list over here and you can see how they have picked their books. And then you can just play around with these baskets. You can set them according to how you want them to look like, how you want your reading corner to look like. I have done it the way I feel it's comfortable for me. And I have just created these book baskets, but according to how you want your reading corner to look like, you can label those baskets that way. So for example, over here, fiction books are here. Let me click on The Pigeon Eats a Bat. So this one takes you to a YouTube video. So it's really quick. I mean, basically this is more like, yeah. So because there are so many different platforms which are offering with so many great books, and then we're just going here and there, jumping here and there. So this is pretty much easier for the teachers to just quickly come here, look at the links, and then just add those books into these Padlet baskets. Yes. And then once you're done, you can just rotate your inventory. You can change your books in your classroom library. You can go back to virtual book room and get your hands on more books. So basically your literacy coach can just organize this one, or your leader, whoever, and then yeah, they can be up to date. And this is pretty much it. And I'll really appreciate it if you can just share other amazing links which are offering great books, so that I can add it into my this last more links, more books, more links baskets. And so it will be easy for me to just change and add on more books into these baskets. And I'll add my email ID in the chat room so that you can contact me if you want to talk about more regarding the Readers Workshop. And I would love to hear how you all are conducting your Readers Workshop. I would really love to know more ideas. Like this is what I came up with. I mean, thanks to my literacy coach, Ms. Lorna. And yeah, am I too early?
Thanks. No, it's perfect. It's perfect. Thanks for sharing. This is, everybody in the chat is thinking the same thing I am, is what a fantastic resource for students. And you can see this going across curriculum areas as well. It's just a way to organize yourself, but it can go beyond books. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're most welcome.
Again. All right. So next up, next up, we have.
I just joined. Can someone send the link?
Yes, I'll send that link out. Thanks for asking. There's a couple links, but I'll send the first one. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, and then I will I'll send that out. All right. So next up, we have David Kelly is going to be sharing on how to build happiness in the classroom. David, are you all set?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
All right.
So I have been really interested in how to cultivate happiness in the classroom, and this has really become a key focus of mine ever since our current situation with virtual learning. And I've done a lot of research on this. So this is a academically based presentation, but I want you to participate in the chat if you are ready. And this is how I do a lot of my classroom work with secondary kids, not actually on Padlet or other applications, but right there in the chat, keeping everyone's connected. So how does COVID-19 and quarantine affect happiness? Well, really, it's affecting a lot of people with trauma, because the brain is not really connecting everything. And I think this is important for people to really understand, because it explains a lot of what we're seeing in our students. When you have trauma, you have complex grief and fears and difficulty accepting change. You might have students who haven't had the same academic or social engagement as you had when you had them in your classroom. And this might explain some of their behaviors inside of the virtual classroom. But we also, in this situation, have decreased happiness boosts, as I'm going to start calling them. We have decreased human connections, increased screen time, and we are constantly bombarded with messages that incite this fight or flight thinking. And then we have this pressure of still grading the students, and studies have shown that grades don't actually make you happy. And so how do we actually deal with engaging students and cultivating their happiness in our classroom? We don't focus on the grades. We should emphasize connections, positive growth, strengths of their academics, personalize their classroom time to capture intrinsic motivation. So this is one of the things I often start my classes with. right here, right now. How do you feel right now? Just checking in with yourself. And you can put that in your chat. I don't know if you're doing it or not because I can see only my screen. Normally in classroom, it's right there. 1, you're feeling really bad, you're having a bad day. And 10, you're feeling fantastic. And just check in with yourself. Where are you feeling right now? And you can add a message about that if you want, or you can just put the number down. And while you're thinking about that, we'll go on. So what now? What do we do knowing that we're in this situation of quarantine and it's affecting everyone's potential happiness? Well, we can build in resilience. As Beth was talking about earlier, keeping the class check-ins and the closure of the class structure can still mirror the physical class with the virtual. That resilience on its own will help to bring the children and the students back into the process of learning. But how much can you actually control? You think it's just 10% or 100%? And again, this is exactly the kind of thing I would do in the classroom. I would put a little question out like this and ask students to respond. Studies have shown that it's 40% of your intentional activities can control your happiness. And that's really the 40% that I want to help you capture inside of your learning and your classrooms. One strategy beyond just checking in is picking something to savor. I'll often start a class with this as well. What's one thing that you're looking forward to this weekend, something you really want to deeply enjoy? I'll often talk about something that I want to deeply enjoy, like my morning cup of coffee or my bike ride. I try to mirror what I'm asking them to do and meet them halfway. And then we can talk with them, engage on that level. How are you going to share the experience with someone else? How can you have gratitude for the experience? And this is a scientifically backed strategy to build your happiness. And I would encourage you to do that right now in the chat. What is one thing you are enjoying doing, perhaps from this class, from this seminar time? What is one thing that you're enjoying? Yeah.
Everybody is using the chat. If you want to see what people are saying, if you scroll down and press the chat window, it should pop up for you. If you scroll down to the,
it's not. It's all right.
By any chance? All right, but everybody is using it.
That's fantastic. One other thing you can do is you can do random acts of kindness. This has also been demonstrated to increase your happiness, and you can actually organize class activities around that. Can you give someone else in class a compliment? Can you share a note or kind words with them, help them? And you can build this into your class activities. Make sure that they are interacting with each other in helpful ways. Anything you can do to build social connection, even a few minutes can make a difference. Challenge yourself as a teacher to really share and listen with your students, and then help them document their thankfulness. As an English teacher, this is easy to do, but you can do it in cross classrooms. What can you do to recognize things that you're thankful for? And that's something else that I will frequently ask my students to do, perhaps at the ending of a class or at the beginning. What's one thing that you're thankful for? And the conversations that come out of that are really incredible, because you get more than just simple comments. You find that students are actually thankful for other students in the class and their connections with the world. So now that we've actually practiced a little bit, check in with yourself now. I don't know, only a short time has passed, but imagine we're at the end of the class now. How are you feeling now? Are you still at a 1? Are you still at a 10? Hopefully, after thinking about your gratitude, thinking about your social connections, you're feeling a little bit better at this point. Here are 10 points for cultivating happiness from actionforhappiness.org. Great dream, giving, relating, exercising, awareness, trying out. I encourage you all to visit that. I encourage you all to start listening to the Happiness Lab on Spotify. This is a weekly podcast that has many great tips, scientifically based, on how to build your happiness, and they all come in the form of well-known, really engaging stories. And then if you really want to know how well your students are doing, try giving them the EPOC measure of adolescent well-being. It's a short test that you give over a period of time. And you can actually engage students in this and ask them, how are you doing in your happiness? When Luke shares this out, there are lots of other sources that you can check out on your own time if you're really interested in the topic. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for sharing, David. Yeah, it's unbelievably important to make sure that our well-being is looked after as teachers, as students. Thanks for bringing this up, and I will share out at the end all of these presentations with everybody that registered for this TeachMeet. Thanks for sharing, David.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Vinolia. She's going to be sharing some remote leadership strategies with us. Vinolia, are you all set?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Okay, good afternoon. It's good to be here. Thank you, Luke, for this opportunity to invite me to share. It's really wonderful to see such a lovely community sharing and caring. And that's what it's all about as teachers and administrators to be to one another at this time. So what I'm going to share is probably what you're already doing. If you're already doing that, then give a pat on your back. But these are some things that I thought was really important. I know that remote working is incredible. The teachers are doing an amazing job. And yet it can be very challenging. And I'm sure everybody agrees with that. So I just have a few things. There are a couple of tips that I could give, but because we just have 8 minutes, I'm going to rush through a few important things that I feel that's very close to me as a leader that I would encourage myself and the others to do it. So the first one is keeping the human connection. And I think that's so important during this time of remote learning. So when I became the vice principal, the first thing that I thought of was to be visible to all my stakeholders. So right now you can't do that in person, right? So I think it's very important to be doing that remotely. So how can you be connected to your stakeholders, your teachers, your students every day? So some things that you could do is emails, regular emails to your stakeholders, especially your teachers. David brought up a good point. Daniel brought up a good point saying, teachers' confidence is important, and a teacher's well-being is very important as well during this remote learning. So, giving them a call, not to check on whether you're doing your lessons, but check on how you're doing, how your family is doing, giving them a call, a text, or a Zoom meeting. I think that's really important, and we should make that very intentional as leaders. Next one is motivate and inspire. I think we need to motivate them positively and inspire them as leaders, and making it look different during this time of remote learning is checking in with your teachers again, finding out how they're doing, what's going on, do they need anything, asking questions like, do you need help? Is there anything I can do for you? A quick surveys with staff to find out how they're doing, if they're overwhelmed, how well can you as a leader support them and motivate them? Next one is to celebrate. I've done this 3 times, celebrate, 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 because I think it's important. And this is part of my personality personally, because I like to celebrate people. So, give a weekly emails to teachers saying you've done well, give a shout out to a particular teacher, saying they've done well. I do that to my teachers. I even write an email to students if they've done well. I call a parent and I say they've supported really well, or the student has done really well. When you have a Zoom session, shout out to a teacher or a department. on a routine basis, make sure that they feel appreciated, they feel celebrated, and even celebrating as a team any success. This online work has been so wonderful with all the teachers. They've gone online so quickly without being trained. So I think everybody deserves to be celebrated, and a big applaud to all of you all and our teachers as well. I think as leaders, we need to recommend self-care, checking out on what they're doing to, to help themselves relax and all that. So one of the things that my principal did was he gave them a flip grid and asked the teachers to record something that they did during this time of virtual learning, something for self-care. And it's wonderful to see how teachers shared. So I'm going to ask Luke to please share this link on the chat. If you all can just quickly use this menti.com, which we've already done it with Anisha, I think. If you can use this code and go on to menti.com and put your answers there for self-care, and we can have a look at it together. I'm just going to give you all like 40 seconds to do that. Share that? Because I can't see the chat.
Vinolia, could you share the code one more time? Or can you tell us the number to the code? I'll put it in the chat window. Oops.
Let me go back.
Thank you. We got it in there. You're all good.
You got that? Okay. So I'm going to give you another 20 seconds to try and get that. Yeah. So you can ask whatever questions you want to with your teachers to using this menti.com, but I use this with my team, and I ask them to put it up so that they can use one of these for them to relax, use someone's idea. So I can screenshot it and send it to Luke, and then we can all maybe use one activity per week to relax ourselves. So let's move on. Thank you so much for participating in that. The next one, those are just the tips of the human connections. The next one is the modeling the use of online instruction tools. How can we as leaders model? And I like this quote by Seth Godin, which says, leadership is the art of giving people a platform for spreading ideas and work. And that's so true. As leaders, we need to be helping our stakeholders with the tools and also modeling that. So what I've been doing, I'm going to share what I have been doing with my staff. So with my my coordinators, I've been using this for meetings, where I use different platforms that will help them to go back and use with their teachers, and the teachers go back and use with their students. So we've used Flipgrid, I've used Padlet, which we've already done that with some of the speakers just a few minutes ago. I've used this PowerPoint presentation where they give their, I put up a question for them and they have to write the answers. So just modeling these online instructional tools with them is very encouraging, and I think that's a good mentoring tool. So this is one of the last things that I want you all to do. I want you all to go back to menti.com, use the same code, and please could you answer that, which is on the Menti screen. That's your last activity for the day. These are just two things that you could, that I wanted you all to use it as a platform to model with your stakeholders. So if you can go back to this menti.com, use the same code and answer the questions, and I think we are good to go. I'll share the screenshot, I'll share the results with Luke, and Luke can pass it on with all the attendees today.
Absolutely, and I'll send out a follow-up email with all of this information, and we'll put these screenshots in there.
So you have to go to
Thanks
the next
for sharing.
Share one thing that you can take away from this session. Take your time and do that. But thank you very much, and yeah, that's it. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you so much for sharing. I loved how you talked about this idea of shared leadership and providing opportunities for your staff to really share how they're feeling, and keeping everybody on board. That actually is the last of our presentations for the day. We're running about 10 minutes late, so I'm just going to ask two quick questions that were brought up in the chat. First one is for Samira. Samira, is all of what you were doing on Padlet, was that free, or was that a paid version that you have?
Yes, it's free. You can create a Padlet for free. And even the resources were there, all those books, they take you to those links which are free. You can create an account for free. I mean, yeah, it's all online for free.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And then David, one about this epoch measure of adolescence. What age range does that go for, and what do you know about who should we engage with that, or engage that with?
My focus has been on secondary, and I'd recommend if you had students who are very self-aware in the older elementary, you could probably do it, but I would hesitate to make that recommendation. I'd say middle school and up is probably more appropriate.
All right, great. All right, well, that concludes this TeachMeet for us. We're going to be doing all these next year as well. So keep an eye out. If you follow Level 5 Bahrain on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, we'll launch those and make sure that everybody knows about them. I will include you on a TeachMeet list that sends out information about when the next ones are coming up. We'll be hosting a virtual one in September. So thanks for joining us and taking the time out of your day. And
thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Luke.
No problem.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll send a follow-up. We'll send a follow-up email with all the presentations and all of the full recording of this in case you missed any of it as well. All right. Have a great afternoon.